Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We will do four surahs today. Surahs number 25, 26, 27, and 28. Al-Furqan, Al-Shu'ara, An-Namal, and Al-Qasas. With these four surahs, we begin the fourth group of surahs in the Quran, which has 9 surahs in all. 8 of them, the first 8, are Meccan surahs. And like in the case of the last group, the last surah, Surah Al-Ahzab, is a Madinan surah. The Madinan surah is a standalone surah, but the rest of the 8 surahs form 4 pairs. Quite apart from the two themes that we found there in all surahs of the last group, this group too also talks about both the good news to believer of success in this life and the next life, and the warning handed out to the kuffar, the disbelievers, that they will meet with punishment, not just in the next life, but in this life too. However, the one predominant theme that uh, this particular group has, it makes it distinguishes it from the other groups, is the theme of the affirmation of the prophethood, the fact that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of God. This theme gets mentioned in this group uh, in a way that it makes it distinguishable from the rest of the groups uh, by this theme. This first 4 surahs that we're going to do, they also talk about the same themes. So we begin with Surah Al-Furqan, which is Surah number 25, and the next Surah Ash-Shu'ara, Surah number 26. These two are together forming a pair. Surah Al-Furqan begins with the mention, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. Blessed is the one who revealed this Al-Furqan upon his servant, so that he may become a warner for all humans, all people of the world. The Almighty revealed this Quran, and revealed in a way that there was a lot of arrangement, it seems, involved. It wasn't a just sudden revelation of a document that took place at one time. It was done gradually. And the book, which is Al-Quran, is also described Al-Furqan. In this verse, its name Al-Furqan has been mentioned, which really means that it's a source that distinguishes right from wrong. And if there are any religious issues, the Quran is the final word that decides what exactly is right and how much it is right. It has been revealed on the servant of the Almighty so that he may become a warner. This book warns people of the fact that this life is short, it's just a trial, and beyond this life there is going to come another life where all humans are going to be held accountable for their conduct. And this message is not just for one nation, one tribe, but for the entire humankind. Then we move on to verse 27 to 29, wherein we find that the Quran is telling us that people on the day of judgment, they will regret, regret their attitude that they had, and would realize that they did not perform the way they were expected to. وَيَوْمَ يَعُضُّ الظَّالِمُ, and on the day the wrongdoers, the unjust people, they would bite ala yadayhi, on their own hands. Yaqulu, they'll say, Ya laytani, uh, I wish, ittakhaztu ma'a rasuli sabila. We wish we would have taken uh, a way of the messenger. We would have been along with him. We could have been in his company to support him. They'll wish there, but that wish would not come to any help for them. Ya waylata laytani lam attakhiz fulanan khalila. Wow, this expression they will make and wish that they would have, they shouldn't have made a friend, a particular friend, which obviously is pointing to some individuals, but ultimately it's the Satan who is being talked about. Uh, they would they would regret the fact that they were friends with certain people. لقد أضلني عن الذكر. He indeed took me away from the remembrance, from the book of God. Mada is dani, after it had reached me. The book had reached me. I was able to understand the book, but this bad company was responsible for me to just move away from it. Wakana shaitanu lil insani khazula. And indeed, Satan is to man uh, unloyal, deserter. He would not help when the time of help, when it's needed, would come. So that those regrets are going to be expressed on the day of judgment. And verse 30 tells us, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ, and the messenger would say, Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhazu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. Oh my Lord, my people have made the Quran completely abandoned. They've just ignored it. This is a statement which the messenger is going to make on the day of judgment, complaining against the people to whom he had presented the book. Uh, as I mentioned, that this particular group is talking about the fact that the message of Allah and the messenger, they are indeed from God, and all uh, complaints, all criticisms have been responded to. So people would complain, why exactly is it that the Quran has not been revealed in one go? Why is it that revelations keep coming every now and then? فَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So those who disbelieved, they said, لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ عَلَيْهِ الْقُرْآنِ. Why has the Quran not been revealed on him? جُمْلَةً وَاحِدًا, in one go, all at once. كَذَلِكَ, that's how we have done. لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ, so that we should strengthen your heart. وَرَتَّلْنَاهُ تَرْتِيلًا, and we have spaced it distinctly, given proper, reasonable gaps. Uh, it's like you have food and you have all the food that's available in one go. It's not going to have a good effect on your health. So it's a much better idea that you take your food gradually, give space. So likewise, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet um, as and when it was needed, and it happened gradually. Uh, then the surah talks about the opposition of the prophet that the prophet faced from people who were very rigid, uh, stubborn, and they would not listen to what the prophet was saying. And they believed in their own polytheistic ways uh, as if that was the truth. And they would encourage each other, buck each other up, that we must continue to persevere with our polytheistic ways, with our religious understanding based on shirk. So the Quran mentions that there was there was a discussion, dialogue between these people who were ascribing partners with God. One saying to the other, "In kada la yudilluna an alihatina." This man, he almost misled me from my gods. Laula an sabarna alayha. Had I not persevered with them, had I not been steadfast in worshipping them. وَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. Very soon they're going to learn حِينَ يَرَوْنَ الْعَذَابَ, and they're going to see the punishment. Man adallu sabila, who was the one who had gone astray from the right path. Then the Quran mentions in verse 52 that the Prophet was urged, فَلَا تُطِعِ الْكَافِرِينَ. So do not pay heed to these disbelievers. Do not be affected by what they're saying. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. And strive against them with this Quran. This Quran is what you must hold fast to and strive against others, the enemies, the opposition, and do it jihadan kabira. Strive as best as you can. It should be a great effort, jihad against them through the Quran. Present the Quran to them. Let them know what the truth is. Keep doing it. Keep responding to their allegations, their criticisms through the Quran. And finally, in this surah, the Almighty mentions the fact that there are people who really are liked by the Almighty. They are the ones who are worthy of His attention, His love, His concern. And that's because of their attributes, because of their performance. So He says in verse 83, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ حَوْنًا. And the true servants of Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, are those who walk upon earth humbly. They are humble in their approach. And when the ignorant address them, they just say salam, peace. They don't get involved in any unnecessary debate with them. وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. And those who spend a part of the night uh, prostrating and standing in prayer to their Lord. And those who say, "O Lord, please avert from us the punishment of hell." Indeed, its punishment is going to be ever adhering. إِنَّهَا سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. Indeed, it is evil as a settlement and as a residence. If you would go there for a short while, or whether you reside there for a long while, it's evil. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا. And those people who, that is, the favorites of Rahman, are the people who, when they spend their wealth, lam yusrifu, they neither do it excessively, walam yaqturu, nor sparingly, wakana bayna zalika qawama, and they are moderate between them. Wallazina la yad'una ma'allahi ilahan akhar. And those are the people who do not invoke with God any other deity, any other partners. وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسِ, and they do not kill any soul, any human, الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ, the one that the Almighty has forbidden, إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ, except for a just cause, وَلَا يَزْنُونَ, and they do not commit extramarital relationship, sexual relationship. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ, and whoever does it, يَلْقَى أَثَامًا, he will most certainly going to meet with punishment. And then goes on to say that if those people repent genuinely, then their repentance is going to be accepted. And then in verse 72, the Almighty mentions another attribute of them, that وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ, and they are the ones who do not testify to falsehood. And when they pass near uh, evil speech being mentioned, they pass by with dignity. And these are the people who, when they are reminded through the signs, the verses of their Lord, لَمْ يَخِرُّوا عَلَيْهَا سُمًّا وَعُمْيَانًا, they do not fall upon it deaf and blind. And these are the ones who always pray to the Almighty that, O Lord, grant us from amongst our wives and our children, offspring, comfort to our eyes. That is, they too should be performing well in the right path, and make us an example or the leaders of the righteous people. These are the ones who are going to get high, lofty buildings, chambers for patiently enduring the test of life. And they'll be received therein with greetings and words of peace. After that, we have the next surah, which is Surah Shura, surah number 26. This surah partners with Surah Al-Furqan and begins with Ta Sin Mim. This is Surah Ta Sin Mim. And Ta, as I mentioned earlier, it symbolizes the meanings of snake, and therefore, predictably, this surah has the story of Musa alayhi salam, Moses, which mentions in one part of it snake. This is Surah Tasin Mim Tilka Ayatul Kitab al Mubin. These are the verses of a clear book, a book that mentions its message most clearly. لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. O Prophet, it seems as if you're going to kill yourself in grief uh, because that they will not believe. So the Prophet was a very concerned, very sympathetic individual who always wanted people to believe. And he knew that the consequences are going to be very grave if they're not going to believe. So he used to be worried about people. The Almighty mentions in response to the demand of the disbelievers that there should be some sign, some miracle shown in order for this message to be confirmed. The Almighty says, Avalam yarau ilal ard, have they not seen what's around, what's available in this land, on earth? Kam ambatna fiha min kulli zawjin kareem, how much we have produced in it from every kind of greenery, of crops, fruits and vegetation. Inna fi zalika laya, in it there is a very clear sign. Wama kana aktharuhum mu'minin, but most of these people are not going to believe. Wa inna rabbaka lahuwal azizur rahim. Don't forget that your Lord is exalted in might and he is merciful too. Then we move on to the description of a number of messengers. All the 6 famous messengers who have been talked of in other surahs, like in Surah Al-Araf and Surah Hud, they have all been described here as well. Nuh, Hud, Saleh, Lut, Shuaib, and Musa. But it begins with the story of Moses, Musa alayhi salam. Verse 34 mentions the fact that قال للملأ حوله إن هذا لساحر عليم. When Musa alayhi salam, he presented the message of the Almighty, and to begin with, he showed those miracle of the staff turning into a serpent snake. Uh, the the people were impressed, but they didn't want to express the fact that the miracles had influenced them. And Pharaoh, he obviously was nervous because he felt that his rule, his throne, is threatened. So he said, "Qala lil malai hawlahu," to the eminent people around him. He said, "Inna hadha la sahirun azim." And seems to be a learned magician. Yuridu an yukhrijakum min ardikum bisihri. He wants to drive you out of this land through his magic. Famaza tabrun. What is your opinion? What do you suggest? Qalu arjeh. They responded by saying that just delay the matter. Wa'akhahu, postpone the matter. Him and his brother, Wab'ath fil madaini hashirin, and send people who would gather from different cities. Gather people, bring them together, and then let's see what happens. Whatever happens should be viewed by a large crowd so that these people, they're exposed and their magic doesn't really harm us. Then we move on to verse 45, wherein it's mentioned that when it all happened, فَأَلْقَى Musa asahu, and the magicians, expert magicians of Egypt were brought together, and it was like there was a competition that was going on between the two groups, the magicians and Moses. When they showed their magic, which impressed people, Musa alayhi salam, he threw his staff. فَإِذَا هِيَ تَلْقَفُ مَا يَأْفِكُونَ. And so what happened was that it just swallowed, devoured what they had put there. It was just whatever they had presented was all false. فَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. So the magicians, they fell down in prostration. It was, you know, a spontaneous response, instinctive. They were so impressed that they were overwhelmed by what they saw, and they fell prostrating. قالوا آمنا برب العالمين. So what they said, that we believe in the Lord of the entire mankind, Rabbi Musa wa Harun, the Lord of Moses and Harun. So, they accepted the fact that what Moses was presenting was the truth, because they could see that what he had presented was genuine. It wasn't magic. The miracle really seemed to be from no one other than the Creator. In verse 65 onwards, what we see is that the climax of this context is mentioned. وَأَنْجَيْنَا مُوسَى وَمَن مَّعَهُ أَجْمَعِينَ. We rescued, saved Moses and those with him, all of them together. ثُمَّ أَغْرَقْنَا الْآخَرِينَ. And we drowned the others. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً. Indeed, in it is a sign, a great sign. وَمَا كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. But most of them are not going to believe. وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ. And indeed, your Lord is mighty, exalted in might, and is merciful too. Thereafter, we are informed about Ibrahim's alayhi salam's story as well. This is, in addition, the seventh messenger, quite apart from those six who has been mentioned in the surah. And while preaching to his nation, he introduced the Creator, the Almighty, by mentioning, He is the one, Allazi khalaqani fahuwa yahdeen. He is the one who created me and He guided me. Wallazi huwa yut'imuni. He is the one who feeds me, wayasqeen, and gives me drink. Wa iza maridtu. And when I fall ill, fahuwa yashmeen. So He is the one who cures me. Wallazi yumituni. He is the one. And He is the one who is going to cause me to die. Thumma yuhyin. Then He is going to resurrect me, bring me back to life. Wallazi, and He's the one. At'amu, I hope, I aspire, an yaghfirali, that He's going to forgive me. Qatiyati, my faults, my sins, yawmaddin, on the day of judgment. So that is the beautiful introduction of the Almighty done by uh, Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then we find the mentions of the other 5 messengers: Noah, Hud, Saleh, Lut, and Shuaib. And after that, towards the end of these stories, in verse 192, the Almighty is talking about the fact that this Quran, وَإِنَّهُ لَتَنزِيلُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, indeed it is a revelation of the Lord of the entire mankind. Nazala bihir ruhul amin, the angel Jibreel, who is the trustworthy spirit, he has brought it down. Ala qalbika, on your heart, upon your heart, O Prophet, litakuna min al munzirin, so that you be amongst the warners. You be the one who should warn the people. That's what the subject of this book is. It is warning people to correct themselves, mend their ways before it's too late. Bilisan in Arabiyyim Mubin, and it has been revealed in a clear Arabic, in a language which is clear, doesn't make any uh, confused statements, any mention which people can't understand. It puts across its message in the most clear way, so that whatever is to be understood should be properly grasped. Finally, in verse 21 onwards, the Quran says, Surah Shura, Hal unabbiukum ala man tanazzalu shayateen. The disbelievers were alleging, accusing that this book has been revealed, God forbid, by the Satan jinns. The Quran says, Hal unabbiukum, should I not tell you, ala man tanazzalu shayateen, upon whom the devils descend. Tanazzalu ala kulli affakin athim. They descend upon people who are sinful, who are liars, cheats. Yulquna sama, and they lend their ears to hear. Wa aktharuhum kazibun, and most of them are liars. That is, they are always looking for some information coming from the Almighty, so that they could take away some part of it, steal it, and give it to some humans, their friends, Satan humans, and thus people get misled, because some part of the information that we'll get from the angels, they'll steal from there, would turn out to be correct, and people will have confidence in them. So these people are evil people. A noble person will not have Satan coming to him, helping him out. And those who are helped by these jinns, Satan jinns, washu'ara, are the poets, yattabi'uhumul ghawun. They only those who stay away from the right path, they follow them. Alam tara, have you not seen? Annahum fi kulli wadin yahimun, that they wander about, roam in every valley. They've got no clear subject. They talk about everything under the sky aimlessly. وَأَنَّهُمْ يَقُولُونَ مَا لَا يَفْعَلُونَ, and they say what they do not do. Their words and their actions, they don't match. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except for those who believe truly. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and they do good deeds. وَذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا, and they remember God abundantly, very often. وَانْتَصَرُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا ظُلِمُوا, and if they are done harm, they take revenge. They don't do it first. They don't take the lead. But if at all they're harmed, uh, they respond. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, so very soon those who have been unjust, they will know أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ, what return they will be returned, which place they are going to be made to return. After Shura, now we have two other surahs which are forming a pair, which is An-Naml and Al-Qasas. Both surahs, they are talking about the story of Musa alayhi salam, Moses. So Surah An-Naml, Surah number 27, begins with Tasin. Again, understandably so. Tasin, this is Surah Tasin. Tilka ayatul kitab. Tilka ayatul Quran wa kitabim mubin. These are the verses of the Quran, which is a clear book. Qudam wa bushra lil mu'mineen. It's a source of guidance and a source of good news for the believers. Guidance in this world and a good news for the next world. Allazina yuqimuna salat. These true believers are the ones who establish regular prayers, wa yu'tuna zakat, and they give zakat, wa hum bil akhirati hum yuqinun, and as far as the hereafter is concerned, you're absolutely convinced. This is a Meccan surah, but it sounds very similar to Surah Al-Baqarah. The fact of the matter is that even in the Meccan period, believers used to say their prayers and would pay zakat. Salat and zakat were religious practices that all prophets and their followers they followed. Therefore, it's not a surprise that the believers, even at the time when they were in Mecca, they were following these important religious expectations. Verse 13 mentions the fact that when Moses came to Pharaoh with clear signs, فَلَمَّا جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَاتُنَا, when our clear signs came to them, مُبْصِرَةً, that opened their eyes, قَالُوا هَذَا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ, their response was that this is a clear magic. وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا, and they rejected them. وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ, even though their inner souls were convinced. They were convinced that this is from God. And yet they rejected it. ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوبًا, because of being unjust and by being arrogant. They did it unjustly, arrogantly. Fanzur, so see, كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُفْسِدِينَ, how was the fate of those who caused mischief. Then we have verse 15 mentioned, which says that the two prophets, the father and the son, David and Solomon. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُدَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ عِلْمًا, and we certainly gave David and Solomon knowledge. وَقَالَا, and they both said, Alhamdulillah allazi faddalana ala kathirin min ibadihi al-mu'mineen. All praise and expressions of gratefulness are for the one who favored us, ala kathirin min ibadihi, over a large number of his servants, believing servants. So the idea is that the people of Quraysh who were not accepting this message because they thought that they were superior, that they were arrogant, the Almighty is informing them that, look here, there were people before you who were far more strong and wealthy than you are, and yet they were thankful to the Almighty. So there's something wrong in you. Your attitude is not correct. And then the same mention of the story of Solomon continues, with the greatness of his kingdom. And we are informed in verse 28 that Solomon mentions it to his bird, who would come with information that Queen Sheba is ruling over, uh, a certain part of a territory next to where uh, Solomon rule ended, in Yemen. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, he mentioned it to the bird, Izhab bi kitabi haza. Take this letter of mine with you, fa'alqih ilayhim, and deliver it to them. ثم تولى عنهم, and then stay away from them for a while. Fanzur, then see, Maza yarjaun, what exactly do they say in return? How do they respond? Alat, the queen said, Ya ayyuhal malaw, O my courtiers, the eminent people, Inni ulqiya ilayya kitabun kareem. There is a noble letter that I have received. Innahu min Sulaiman. It's from Solomon. Wa innahu bismillah ar-Rahman rahim. And it begins with Bismillah ar-Rahman rahim. In the name of God, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. And it says, Allah ta'alu alayya wa'tuni muslimin. And it says that, come to me in submission and do not be arrogant. Don't be haughty. So this is what she presented to the people whose support enabled her to rule over. What we learn later is from verse 40 onwards that Solomon asked his people as to who amongst them could bring the throne of Queen Sheba to this place where they were sitting. قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب. There was a jinn amongst the people who were there to serve him, who said that I can bring it to you before you leave this place. For today's meeting comes to an end. But then قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب. There was somebody whom God had given knowledge, who had knowledge of the book. أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك. I'll bring it. I'll bring the throne to you even before uh, you know your glance returns to you. You will find it right in front of you immediately. Uh, then what happened was that فَلَمَّا رَآهُ مُسْتَقِرًّا, when he saw it placed right before him, immediately, in a split of a second, قَالَ هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. He said that this is a favor of my Lord. لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَأَشْكُرْ أَمْ أَكْفُرْ. He has done it so that he should test me, whether I'm going to be grateful or I'm going to be ungrateful. فَمَنْ شَكَرَ, and whoever is grateful, فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ, is grateful only for himself. And وَمَنْ كَفَرَ, whoever is ungrateful, فَإِنَّ رَبِّي غَنِيٌّ كَرِيمٌ, my Lord is free from all needs and he is generous. So this again is an indication to the disbelievers, the leaders of Quraysh, who did not accept the message of Allah because they thought that they were superior and they were arrogant. So they are informed that there have been people much stronger than them, and yet they were humble and they believed. Then what we find is later a mention of the people of Thamud in verse 48. The Almighty mentions that وَكَانَ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ تِسْعَةُ رَهْطٍ يُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا يُصْلِحُونَ. And there were in the city 9 families. They were causing corruption, mischief in the land, and they were not correcting their affairs. Qalu, they all said in a gathering, Taqasamu billah, take a mutual oath in the name of Allah, in the name of God, لَنُمَيِّتَنَّهُ وَأَهْلَهُ, that you are going to kill him during the night together and his family, that is Saleh's family and he himself. ثُمَّ لَنَقُولَنَّ لِوَلِيِّهِ, then we are going to say to their family members, their heirs, that Ma shahidna mahalika Ali, we did not see anyone. We weren't there as witnesses at the time of their killing. Inna wa inna la sadiqun, and we are indeed the truthful. This is what they planned. And obviously, the Quran was mentioning it, and in the background was the Prophet and his companions being threatened by the people of Mecca. And they were having this negative thought, evil idea of trying to kill the Prophet. So, in that backdrop, these verses have been mentioned. وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكْرًا. And they planned a plan, and we also had a plan. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they could not perceive. They had a secret plan, and the Almighty says, we also had a plan, and they didn't realize. فَانْظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ مَكْرِهِمْ. See how was the outcome of their plan. أَنَّا دَمَّرْنَاهُمْ وَقَوْمَهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. And we destroyed them and all people living therein. وَتِلْكَ بُيُوتُهُمْ خَاوِيَةٌ خَاوِيَةً بِمَا ظَلَمُوا. So those are their homes. They're desolate because of the evil that they had committed. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً. Indeed, in it is a sign لِقَوْمِ يَعْلَمُونَ, for the people who want to know, who want to understand. Towards the end, what we find is that the Almighty talks about the condition of guidance in verse 80. And he says, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. Sorry, it's verse 80 and it says, إِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى. O Prophet, you can't make people listen to you, to this message, who are dead. That is, who are morally, spiritually dead. وَلَا تُسْمِعُ السُّمَّ الدُّعَاء. Nor can you make deaf hear the call. إِذَا وَلَّوْا مُدْبِرِينَ. When they turn their backs. If they're not interested, how can you help them understand? وَمَا أَنْتَ بِهَادِ الْعُمْيِ عَنْ ضَلَالَتِهِمْ. Nor can you guide the blind who are away from their error. In tusmi'u, you can only make people listen. مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا. Those who want to believe in our signs. فَهُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. They, when they will believe, they will become real Muslims. They will submit to the will of the Almighty. At the end of the surah, it said that إِنَّمَا أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَعْبُدَ رَبَّ هَذِهِ الْبَلْدَةِ. O Prophet, say to them, I have been commanded to worship the Lord of this city, who made it sacred and to whom belong all things. and I am commanded to be amongst those who have submitted. And I have also been commanded an atlu al-Quran, that I recite the Quran. And whoever is guided is only guided for the benefit of himself. And who strays away from the right path, say, say to him, I am only a warner. I can't force you to believe. فَقُلِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ, and say all praise and expressions of thankfulness are for God. سَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ, very soon he's going to show you the signs, his signs. فَتَعْرِفُونَهَا, then you will recognize them. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ, and your Lord is not unaware, amma ta'malun, of what you are doing. Then we move to the next surah, Surah Al-Qasas, which partners with this surah. Surah Naml starts Tasin Mim. This surah is Surah Tasin Mim. Again, Ta is there. And this surah too talks about the story of Moses. Tilka ayatul kitab al-mubin. This is these are the verses of a clear book. Quran time and again mentions that its verses are clear. Natlu alayka min nabai Musa. We mention to you the story of Moses, of Pharaoh and Pharaoh, bil haq, in truth. It's a true story, and it's a story narrated to make you understand. It has a purpose. لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. It's for those people who really want to believe. Inna Fir'auna ala fil ard. Pharaoh had become arrogant, and he showed arrogance in the land. وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شِيَعًا, and he made the people living in the city divided into groups. يَسْتَضْعِفُ طَائِفَةً مِّنْهُمْ. He caused some to be weakened. يُذَبِّحُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ, used to slaughter their sons. وَيَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُمْ, and would keep their females alive. إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Indeed, he was the one who caused a lot of mischief on earth. We find in verse 7, the Almighty mentions that one of the sons who was born was Moses. And obviously, his family was therefore fearful that he too might be killed. However, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى, we inspired Musa's mother, an Arda'i, and asked her to suckle him, to feed him. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ, and then when you fear about him, you have a feeling that there are people around coming to kill him. فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, and cast him into the river. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي, and don't fear and don't grieve. إِنَّا لَرَادُّوهُ إِلَيْكَ, we're most certainly going to return him to you. وَجَعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, and we are going to make him a prophet. So, don't feel that what you're doing is going to risk his life. Then we move on to verse 22, where we are informed that Musa alayhi salam, he grew into a strong, noble young man. He helped somebody who had a fight with another person. And because Musa alayhi salam felt that one of them was being unfair, unjust, and was causing unnecessary harm to the other, in support of the right cause, he gave a punch to the aggressor, who fell dead. And this obviously was the cause of a blame on Musa. So there was somebody who came from the outskirts of the city, from the other part of the city, running to him and telling him that just leave this place. The people, Pharaoh and his people, they're after you. So, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ, Musa alayhi salam, he left the place, he left Egypt, directed himself towards Madian. قال عسى ربي أن يهديني سواء السبيل, and he prayed and said, my Lord will guide me to the right way. فلما ورد ما مدينة, so when he reached the place where people were watering their flocks, their animals, وجد عليه أمة من الناس يسقون, he found people over there who had brought their flocks, their animals, for watering them. فوجد من دونهما امرأتين تذودان, and he found a little aside from them two women who were driven back. قال ما خطبكما, he asked them, what's your matter? Why are you here? قالتا, they said, لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء. They said, we are here and we can't water our animals until these people they disappear, they go back. وأبونا شيخ كبير, the difficulty is that our father is an old man. So فسقى لهما, he watered their flocks for them. ثم تولى إلى الظل, and then he went back to the shade of a tree and he prayed, ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. My Lord, indeed I am, for whatever good you would send down to me, I am desperate for it. I am in need of it. So he made that prayer, and it so happened that he was asked to come over by the father of the two ladies who were sisters. And it is said that the father was Shuaib alayhi salam. It's not mentioned in the Quran, but that's what normally is considered. The father said, قَالَ إِنِّي أُرِيدُ أَنْ أُنْكِحَكَ إِحْدَى ابْنَتَيَّ هَاتَيْنِ. My intention is that I should get you married to one of my two daughters. عَلَىٰ أَنْ تَأْجُرَنِي ثَمَانِيَ حِجَجٍ, on the condition that you're going to serve me, my family, here for 8 years. And if you complete 10 years, it would be a favor from your part. I don't want to make the task difficult for you. You're going to find me, inshallah, minas salihin, amongst good, righteous people. So this deal was done. And then the Quran tells us in verse 30, skipping many details, which what the Quran does, the unnecessary details are not mentioned. We are informed that فَلَمَّا أَتَاهَا نُودِيَ مِنْ شَاطِئِ الْوَادِ الْأَيْمَنِ. On his way back to Egypt, Moses, in a night of winters, saw fire, and he asked his family, his wife and kids, to stay back, and he went there. And when he came to it, he was called from the right side of the valley in a blessed spot from the tree. O Moses, I am the God, Allah, Lord of the worlds. وَأَنْ أَلْقِ عَصَاكَ, and you throw your staff. فَلَمَّا رَأَى تَهْتَزُّ, but when he saw it swerving, moving around, كَأَنَّهَا جَانٌّ, as if it was a snake, وَلَّا مُدْبِرًا, he returned, وَلَمْ يُعَقِّبْ, and he didn't come back. Ya Musa, the Almighty said, O Moses, أقبل, return, وَلَا تَخَفْ, and don't fear. إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْآمِنِينَ, you are now secure. This is how Musa alayhi salam got the first of his communication with the Creator, and he was informed that he has been appointed by the Almighty to be a messenger, and he was asked to go and invite Pharaoh to the truth. And this staff, which turned into a serpent, was given as one of the signs, one of the miracles. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُم مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ, so when Moses went to them, Pharaoh and his people, with clear signs. Alu, they said, Ma haza illa sihrun muftara. It's nothing but magic that has been invented. Wama samena bihaza fi abaina al-awwalin. And what you're saying, you never heard it before amongst our forefathers, elders. So what you're saying is something very new and it's strange. Uh, then what we find is in verse 39 that the Almighty is telling us that when the message was clearly delivered to Pharaoh and his people, فَاسْتَكْبَرَ هُوَ وَجُنُودُهُ. He showed arrogance, he as well as his people, fil ard, on the earth, بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ, without any justification. There's no justification for arrogance. And he was arrogant. وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا يَرْجُونَ. And the reason was that they thought that they would never return to us. This feeling that this world is the only life and what we have under our control is ours, and we're not going to return to our Creator, is what causes people to be arrogant. So we seized him, وَجُنُودَهُ, and his soldiers, فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ, and we threw him into the sea. فَانْظُرْ, so see, look, كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الظَّالِمِينَ, what was the end of those who were zalim, who were unjust. And the Quran mentions in verse 48 that, look here, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمُ الْحَقِّ, when the truth has come to these people, the people of Mecca, min indina, from us, قالوا, they say, لَوْلَا أُوتِيَ مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ Musa. Why has he not been given the same, that is, the same miracles as Musa was given? أَوَلَمْ يَكْفُرُوا بِمَا أُوتِيَ مُوسَى مِنْ قَبْلِ. The Almighty responds by saying that, is it not a fact that what Musa was given was also rejected? قَالُوا سِحْرَانِ تَظَاهَرَا. They said that these are two magicians, تَظَاهَرَا, who have come, who are supporting each other. وَقَالُوا إِنَّا بِكُلٍّ كَافِرُونَ. They said, we just rejected. So that too didn't come to help people in believing. قُلْ فَأْتُوا بِكِتَابٍ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. So tell them, O Prophet, bring a book from God, وَأَهْدَى مِنْهُمَا, which is more straight than these two, that is Torah and the Quran. أَتَّبِعْهُ, I'm going to follow it. إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if you are really truthful. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ, but then if they do not respond to your call positively, فَعْلَمْ, then know for sure, أَنَّمَا يَتَّبِعُونَ أَهْوَاهُمْ, that they are following their desires, just following their desires and nothing else. They don't want to know the truth. وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنِ اتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ بِغَيْرِ هُدًى مِّنَ اللَّهِ. And who can be more astray, deviated from the right path, who follows his desires without any guidance from God? Inna Allah la yahdil qawma zalimin. Indeed, God does not guide those who are unjust, unfair. At the end of the surah, the Almighty says in verse 86, وَمَا كُنْتَ تَرْجُو أَنْ يُلْقَى إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابُ. O Prophet, you never wanted that the book be revealed to you. إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِّن رَبِّكَ. It's only the mercy of your Lord that it has come to you. فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ ظَهِيرًا لِلْكَافِرِينَ. So never be a supporter of those who are disbelievers, and never let them avert you from the signs and the verses of God after they have been revealed to you, and invite people to your Lord, and never be of those who associate partners with God, and do not invoke with God any other deity. There is no God, no deity except Him. Everything is going to be destroyed except Him. He is the ultimate judge. His judgment is final, and to Him you will all be returned. May the Almighty enable us to understand the Quran properly and to follow it to the best of our abilities.